Welcome to the Encouragement Engineering Podcast, where we help people to combat the negativity that inundates our daily lives with a positive perspective and positive action. Today's guest is Ron and Marty Cooper. Our guest today offers a story of overcoming an early life feeling of being dumb, stupid, awkward, and undateable. He processed some well-meaning statements in a way that made him feel very inferior to everyone. And Ron had a very low confidence and self-image. But four men helped inspire him, and he overcame his past. And through that acceptance, he persevered and graduated from college in the Air Force pilot training to earn an F-4 pilot slot, which he had dreamed of. And now, after 30 years of service in the Air Force, Ron helps people achieve their design performance potential. He guides organizations to increase their worker retention and gain new employees by establishing a reputation that people like working in the organization. And his wife, Marty, is here with us today as well. So we're very appreciative of that. So please welcome to the show, Ron and Marty Cooper. Welcome.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate being with you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, if we could, tell us the story of how you got to where you are, because that intro is kind of interesting. You seem to overcome a lot. So tell us how you got there in a short format, if you will.
I can summarize pretty easily for me, Bob, for your audience. But as I look back, I wondered, well, why did I feel I was dumb, stupid, undateable, and so forth? And no intent to blame, but it's as words are meant frequently to be well-meaning. There was, my father, who's no longer with us, and I have no intention of blaming, but it's the way I just processed information. Periodically, he would say, I thought you knew, or you should have known. And I processed that through my, quote, analytical thinking. I'm wondering, well, how should I have known? I'm not sure how. And I processed that as, well, I guess I'm too stupid to know. I should have known, but I did not know. And so I let that churn in my mind, as some people do, that amount of negativity, to where I thought, okay, I guess I am stupid. And so I'll just carry that forward. And the undateable part, I was, to some degree, a one and done kind of dating kind of guy. And I thought, well, okay, I guess I can just add that to the list of things that aren't going to happen. But in time, I met Marty, and she decided to accept me, which that was 56 years ago.
Wow, congratulations.
And four mentors who were very meaningful in my life, and I call them mentors. They were not assigned that role, but they functioned in that capacity. My grandfather, uncle, high school football coach, and Marty's dad. They each functioned in a way that they enlightened me. They helped me know that, no, I really do have value in their own way. And I thought, okay, well, maybe things aren't as bad as I thought. So I credit those four men as the ones who helped me over the very negative part of my life. And then Marty encouraged me that, well, maybe I'm not totally undateable. Maybe there's one lady out there who will have me. And so that gave me the confidence to go to college, get the degree, and enter the Air Force and become a fighter pilot, which was an absolute, I was obsessed, Bob, with that as a dream and a goal. And Marty and I together accomplished. And it was really through, I think, the knowing that I could accomplish something of a worthy goal that affirmed that, yeah, what my four mentors were encouraging me, that I can do. And so, yes, I did. I was thankful. And we are now passing forward those type life lessons. So that's my story, Bob.
Okay. Well, Marty, let me ask you this, because I mean, that's a lot. And as a person, if you will, that trails that, because in the military, we know you're kind of bouncing around and following. And how was that for you? I mean, that's a lot to take on. I mean, you're helping him to encourage his goal and his dream. And, you're you've got the other side. You've got maybe the kids, the house, everything else. How did that work for you?
I grew up in Indiana on a farm. Ron grew up in Maryland on a farm.
Okay.
And so that's all I knew. Mm-hmm. And so when I met Ron, my dad said, you better hang on to him because he's a pretty good deal. So, and I valued my dad and his wisdom.
Yeah.
So we dated, and then we married, and away I went off with him to when he served in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And it was a growing experience for me.
Uh,
I was ready to leave Indiana. Let's just say that. So
yeah,
I tell him he was my ticket out of Indiana.
yeah.
And nothing wrong with Indiana, but you know,
No.
I did want to get away and do something different for myself
Right.
and go back to college and graduate. And that I did.
Good.
So, but it was an experience even for our daughter. She loved it, and she became an Air Force nurse.
Oh, wow.
And got her master's. So it was a growing experience during the time of Vietnam when he went to Vietnam, and then 3 months later went back to Vietnam, and she was a year old. And so all of that, but I enjoyed the Air Force, and I think I grew up.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
grew up.
yeah, you didn't have much of a choice. It was kind of, here you go. So,
And my dad said, I have to say this, my dad, with people back home, they would ask, well, how am I doing? And dad would tell them, as long as Ron's there, she's okay.
wow. Okay. That's a great story there. Well, let me ask you, because obviously with Ron, your background and what you had to, if you will, overcome, how did you build that overcomer attitude? You mentioned, your father-in-law and helping to change what you thought of the way you were, the way you interpreted things. Is that from that time, has that always been something you've integrated? Obviously, becoming an F-14, an F-14 pilot, that's not an easy task either. So you got a lot of hurdles to overcome with that. How was that with you? How did you grow your attitude with that?
Yeah, it's a very important question, Bob. And I would tell you that I wanted to be a leader, and that was always in the background.
Mhm.
Always wanted to. And I always wondered, okay, I want to be, but I feel just some sort of that inhibitor was there, the mindset. But it was a combination of these four men. Again, my grandfather, my uncle, high school football coach, Marty's dad, who in their own way said, no, you can do this. And whatever you choose to do. And Marty's dad was very famous in saying, don't you ever tell me you can't, because your mindset is you can. You'll never do it. Now, tell me you don't want to, but never tell me you can't, because you can if you want to. And so I thought, wow, that's a lesson I'm going to take forward. I'm going to pass that forward, and you can accomplish. I will tell you that Marty was my proverbial kind of co-pilot in that we chair flew. What I mean by that is emergency procedures. Those emergency procedures, you have to know them. You have to commit them to memory. And whatever happens, you have to respond immediately. And over and over, and I don't know how many hours we spent. I said, Marty, did I get it right? Did I get it right? And so that's the chair flying, and that's how we supported each other. And that's I would say, support, Bob, and a lot of us need a support team. Too many of us tend to isolate, go solo, to use an aeronautical term. Don't ever go solo. Yeah. Find a support team and find those who believe in you and share your values. That's somewhat of a summary of how you keep going.
And wow, there's a few pieces I could come out of that with. That's great. I mean, it's interesting because even if you're flying solo, technically you're not, because you have somebody you're maybe talking to on the radio, which brings into the perspective of, even in life, we're not necessarily flying solo. We have our faith, we have our God with us. Is that something that integrates into your life when you go, when you have hurdles that you overcome? Is your faith that strong for any hurdle that comes your way? Because I mean, obviously you went to Vietnam, so I know there was some praying going on when you were there on both sides. So how did that grow, your relationship, if you will, in your life?
No, that too is a very important question. I'm going to make an expression here that some people may say is a bit of arrogance, but yet it's an aspect of confidence. In the aspect of flying, yes, you're right. Even though I'm solo, the only one in the aircraft, I'm responsible for bringing this aircraft back safely and my life with it, and the airplane that I'm flying and so forth. There's that part. I had the attitude that when I was in Vietnam, we flew over the proverbial, well, it's not proverbial, it was the enemy territory, Hanoi and so forth. And my attitude was, you are not going to shoot me down. I am alert enough. I will know you're out there. In the event you do shoot me down, you won't capture me. And if you do capture me, I will survive. And so those are some of the attitudes I have that some people may say is arrogance, but I will tell you, Bob, it's faith-based. That said, God, somehow, some way, whatever you do, you're going to protect me. I know, because Scripture says you'll never leave me nor forsake me. I know you chose me. I know I'm in the palm of your hands. No man can pluck me out. And those are some of the things, Bob, that keep me going. And I just thought, okay, no matter what it is I go through in enemy territory, in the aircraft, and Marty was the consummate supporter. When we were separated, I had no thought that we would ever divorce, that she would cheat on me or anything like that. I just knew that, nope, we're committed to each other. And in a depiction of a triangle with God at the top, Marty and I are each at the opposite legs. The greater we focus on God, the closer we become with each other. And that is what has kept us together and committed to each other. Even though we're geographically separated, we know the Lord has kept us together then and is still.
Right. And I mean, I think that's the best foundation you can have. But I think our society needs to remember that in our world today, there's so much stuff that can take you off on a tangent. These obstacles that you think are, life stopping, if you will, but they're really not. But God's with us all the time. I think he gives us that power to be able to overcome that. We just have to realize our value in being able to do that. It sounds like you've done that.
Well, I'll tell you, Bob, Marty and I have a podcast we call Overcomers, Overcoming. And in that, we have 3 objectives. 1, you're not alone. We're here to help you. Number 2, there are multiple solutions to anything you're going through. It's a matter of thinking into it, think it through. And the 3rd objective is critical thinking. We will help you with the critical thinking required to identify all the facts and factors involved in whatever situation you're in. Let's evaluate, let's make a decision, let's move out together, and guaranteed we'll overcome. It may not be a quick solution, but I can guarantee you we will together overcome. And Marty and I have several life examples of having overcome. And I want to encourage people that there is nothing we go through, nothing, literally nothing, that is so difficult. Together we cannot make it. But again, the encouragement is don't go solo, don't isolate, don't get into a situation where someone else just overwhelmed me with something. And no, together let's work toward a solution. That seems to be oversimplified, possibly, Bob, but that's what Marty and I are about.
But that's a good thing. I mean, in our society today, we complicate everything so easily, so quickly. We need to break things down and realize, hey, it doesn't have to be that complex. I mean, God gave us 10 commandments, 10. Okay, not 30, not 35 and a half, not 15, 10. We complicate it, or our interpretations of that get kind of crazy. And that's a great vantage point. And even looking at your backgrounds. I mean, you come from a farming community, if you will. They don't complicate things. It's simply this. Here's how you do it. And if you're going to work, you're going to work hard. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to start early. You're going to work late. It's how it's done. And I think our society, with all the technology and everything else we have, that's what happens is we complicate it. We let things complicate it. We pass the buck, if you will, off to, the technology or this or that. It starts here. We're people first. And you guys are a great example of just that scenario of keep life simple. And yeah, like you said, take the time to think about it, take the time to look at it and find a solution. Interesting concepts, and I really appreciate that.
Bob, I'll interject just very quickly. Two thoughts come to mind. Farming, that when you're in the field with the equipment and something breaks down,
Yeah.
You don't readily have someone to fix it. You've got to think through it and just get in the toolbox, figure it out, fix it, and move on because you got a job to do.
Yeah.
And then there are too many people who, yes, you're correct, rely on technology or any other means to think that, well, nope, we're not. But I'm just one that takes things in its simplest terms, and nope, together we definitely can. We will.
Yeah. Well, that's very refreshing. On the perspective of personal achievement and, if you will, business achievement, what's a good mindset for success? I mean, you guys are a living example of it. You said 54 years, 53 years together?
Well, it's September 7th of 2023. It'll be 55 years.
Good for
And
you. Okay.
it took me 2 years to gain the courage to ask Marty for a date. So that's one area of lack of confidence right there.
But you overcame it.
I overcame that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But success, everybody has their own definition of success. But I do believe, for me personally, being in God's will, knowing that I am doing what He wants me to do, I am exercising my spiritual gifts and moving out on that. And that's one thing. I do not equate money and success. I do not equate any words or acronyms on a business card as success. None of that kind of stuff. I do believe, Bob, it's a matter of how we relate to people. Marty and I are all about relationships, connected relationships. And I won't take a lot of time philosophizing, but I will tell you that Marty and I believe that when there is harmony in the house, harmony at work, and harmony at church, we'll overcome anything. And that's not Pollyannic thinking. When I say harmony, that means together at home, together at work, together at the church. Whatever obstacle we're facing, I know we're going to get through it because I have people that will help me through whatever we're going through. And I'm the kind of person that when there's harmony at work, pretty good chance I'm going to arrive at work happy. And if work is harmonious, pretty good chance I'm going to come home happy. And if things are going well at church, that gives me an opportunity to look forward to the fellowship and the fellowship of the people, but more so, I'm going to learn more about God. And I like to end the day smarter than what I began the day. So without philosophizing too much, Bob, that's a lot of what I'm about.
Marty, how about you?
I agree with Ron. I'm listening to him and I'm thinking of all the things that we've gone through and what a help he has been for me.
Yeah.
And and encouragement. But I want to go back to when he was in Vietnam.
Mhm.
And I was not being raised in Indiana. I led a protective life. I
Mhm.
mean, on the farm, that's all we knew.
Right.
And so I didn't know anything about the war. And just that, you're going and this
Yeah.
is what it's all about. And the one thing I wanted from that was for our daughter, she was a year old. I didn't want her to be afraid of him when he finally came home.
Right.
So I showed her, I'd take her up to his picture
Mhm.
in a flight suit in front of the airplane and say, that's daddy.
Okay.
And so when he came home at 6 months, for just an R&R. No, he broke his ankle. He had, and so it's one
a
of
heck of a
those.
way to get some R&R.
Yeah. Right. No, it's one of those fighter pilot stories, But anyway, she was not afraid of him, and that's what. And I always felt like Ron was the best Air Force fighter pilot. Nothing would ever happen to him. Not only because I felt like he was good, but I trusted God to take care of him.
I think that's such a powerful statement there, that you trusted God that He'd take care of him, because you have no control.
Mm.
You can't control the situation or what could. You can woulda, coulda, shoulda yourself to death, but that's not going to help you. And you got to give it all to God, and you got to have that faith, and you got to lean into that faith. And that's hard. That's hard. You're talking about a life and death situation. Most people don't have to deal with that, but in your situation, that's what it was. And commend you on and building that faith and that strength, because that is hard to do. I mean, even if you think about just some of the things we have to deal with today, it may not be those situations, but they can be hard for people. And not knowing what's on the other side of that is where that's where that faith comes in and that strength comes in.
No, you're right. And there are a lot of things in life, whether you're military or not, that can separate us. And so it's a matter when you have harmony at home, even though you're separated, even though we're dealing with different obstacles, when we have harmony in the house, we do what we can to keep the family together. We know what we need to do. And there are times we just need to have, a timeout, so to speak, stop the world. We've got to assess where we are. And if we need to make a mid-course correction, we have to do whatever we need to do. But it's a matter of taking time to reflect, assess where we are. And if anything needs to be changed, let's do it.
And that's a good reminder for people too, is take that time. And then, like you said, do whatever you need to do. I mean, a lot of people, they don't want to do what they have to do. Well, sometimes, if push comes to shove, it's better to do it before, fix the roof before it leaks, rather, if your budget's getting tight, start doing things before it's strangling you. I'm sure everybody, deals with that at a time, sometime in their life or not. And those are some great points. You've got to be able to take that time and make those decisions. They're not going to be easy, but it is what it is.
And I'll interject here, Bob, saying that finances is one of the leading indicators, in some statistics, the leading indicator of marital challenges, breakups, and so forth. But I will tell you as well that cell phones, a lot of great things that we can do with a cell phone, but some people, when left alone, can become addicted. They can get onto websites and other chat facilities that are not healthy. And I want to encourage parents, grandparents, as much as I can. You are not being dictatorial by saying, I want to look at your cell phone. I want to review whatever you're using your computer. I want to check your internet web history, just see where you've been, what you're doing. Because, Bob, we know that left alone, some things can be intriguing and so forth, but it's very unhealthy to the mental aspect of our being. We need to reach out and know what is going on and be very effective in working with our children, grandchildren, to ensure, I use the term, we are the spiritual rock of the family, and we have life experience we need to pass on to others.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, I think some of the best things you can do with a TV and a cell phone is shut them off. No, press the big red button. You don't.
And we agree with that. And but there's some people that become so addicted. Well, if don't have that, I'm bored. And whatever else,
right.
Whatever other excuses we have, and that sometimes leads to distractions and other things that are not healthy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, good advice for people. It's something I've seen in scenarios, not only in our government, but in a feeling of, if you will, distrust. And if you will, they're not sure of what's going on, or non-communication. Do you see that in, you mentioned it, with like cell and computer things and the technology? Do you see that come about into the family and across businesses, like a trickle down effect from the government, or do you see it the other way around? How do the two seem to integrate? Because I know you do stuff with businesses and corporations too. So how do those two mesh with the idea of trust and, trusting, a two-way trust system, if you will?
Very, very important topic, Bob. And one of the things Marty and I emphasize, we call our business the Cooper culture, with the emphasis on culture. And the culture is the environment in which we operate. And the environment we have discovered through experience and sometimes through just interacting with others. We in this company, sometimes in the family, I just can't trust you because I don't know if you're going to say something negative about me. I don't think I can tell you what my thoughts are because I don't know if you're going to use them against me, particularly in the workplace. It can happen in church. And so that aspect of trust is just absolutely essential to a healthy environment. And the leader of the house, that is the man, and I'm not speaking in let's just say, masculine terms.
Right.
God says, men, you are the head of the family. And I am responsible to God in that capacity. If you are the leader in the workplace, whatever your gender, but if you are that leader, you are responsible for the culture you develop. And the culture needs to be one of, when it's functioning well, when you can anticipate good retention, is one of trust, loyalty. Many, many people will stay in an organization, even if you can't pay me what another organization can, if the environment, the culture is right. People leave or stay with businesses because of people.
Right.
It's less so the pay. Statistics bear that out. And so if I can't trust you, if the culture is, I just, and I'm just here to punch a time clock, get a paycheck and nothing more. I don't want to spend any more time than that. You don't have a healthy work environment. And there's some places you have a toxic environment and you need to know how to deal with that. The leader as the one that's got to deal with that. And Marty and I have a proprietary method where we can assess the culture of an organization. And we can give the leader our assessment of where the problems are and what can be done long term to improve the culture, such that it is a very sustainable culture. And the net result is retention. We know it could cost somewhere in the average of $65,000 to replace an employee.
Wow. Yeah.
So retention is a very important factor. And when the trust, the culture work together, I know you trust, you value my opinion. And even though I may have been hired in some position, if you have something that comes up, I may have something I can offer to help resolve that. And so I use the term, I don't like to be pigeonholed. I may have been hired to do one job, but I may have some thoughts that can apply elsewhere. But Bob, that's kind of a long answer to culture. And do you trust me? Do you know me? And don't just tell me I'm more than just knowing my name. Do you know my strengths and weaknesses? If you do, then you'll know exactly how to employ me in the organization. And I'm not just an employee number. I'm a part of your staff and I want to advance your company, but I would like for us to know each other. That's a lot of what we are about.
Well, that leads into my next one and probably the final question, if you will. Tell people where they can get a hold of you, your website and all that, because I want to make sure we have time that shows up for people so we make sure they know where to get a hold of you and how you can help them.
We are the cooperculture.com. We have an Overcomers Overcoming podcast that we broadcast twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday at 6:30 a.m. Eastern time. And so you can contact us through the website, or the email is ron@thecooperculture.com, or Marty, Marty, @thecooperculture.com. And any conversation we can generate, Bob, we are interested in doing that. I'm always interested in other people's ideas so that we can advance each other. That's part of our mantra.
Great. Well, thank you so much for telling us that. Thank you for the information today. I really appreciate you guys being a guest on the Encouragement Engineering podcast. It's been an honor to hear from you and refreshing to hear your insights. We look forward to making sure other people can get a hold of you. So I will have all that in the show notes. So thank you for taking the time today to be on the show, and I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate the opportunity to share with your audience.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, not a problem. You guys have a great day.
You too, Bob. You and your audience.